Hello everyone, I'm the Gaming Chapo, and welcome back to another showcase of one of my decks I recently made with the new booster box that came out. And I'm like, you know what? There's a cool bunch of reptiles. They haven't been getting a lot of support, but now they got some more support, which is kind of cool because what this deck is about, you have to put monsters into the graveyard so you could use their effects, or use other monsters effects, meaning banish them from the graveyard or from the, I think, hand and or even field to use their effects, which is pretty good. I love those kind of decks where you have to send them to the graveyard and then the effects are activated, you know. So we're gonna showcase the monsters first. We got, I don't know how to say their names. I'm just gonna say reptile because I suck at pronouncing, like, Ogdoadic queen. I'll just say the queen, you know. That's basically one of the boss monster right there. I do have a couple boss monsters in here. I also have the light one too, which is not good in attack but has good defense. And again, all these monsters always, if they're in the graveyard, you could basically special summoning them by doing a tribute on the field. So you always want to have these kind of monsters in the graveyard and a monster on the field. So I do have two of the dark ones in this deck. And then for this one, I have two of this copy, because I don't think you need like three. So for the Boundless one, I do have three of this one for the deck. Which again, like, all these monsters like have cool effects where you get to special summon them from the graveyard. Sometimes they do have a benefit to your opponent, but it doesn't matter because you're trying to do your combo first. So I do only have two of this one, of the other Boundless one. So here's some other reptiles. Not the same archetype, but for this deck, it actually does help out with the support. This card is really good. Sadly, you cannot use it for a synchro summon, but you could kind of use it for XYZ summon. But again, if this card discards from the hand to the graveyard, I can special summon it from the graveyard. And it doesn't have a once per turn or whatever, so I guess that's a good thing too. And there's cards in this deck where it's like, hey, discard a card from your hand or from the deck, so you get to special summon this guy, which is kind of cool. Sadly, it's not 4-star. Because I do like 4 stars XYZs, but you know, I don't really have 3 stars XYZ monsters, so it's all good. Don't really need them too much. And then here's another boss monster that is a reptile, even though it says Evil Dragon. This guy's really good. Must be special summon. Banish all reptile monsters you control in the graveyard, which is pretty cool. Monsters you control and in the graveyard, so it could be on the field, graveyard, and times 600 for each card, which is pretty good. I do run 2 copies just in case, which is, again, like, you have all these reptiles that are in the graveyard already or on the field. So like, if there's so many monsters in the graveyard, you could just special summon this guy by just banishing those reptiles. I do have a Feral Imp, because he's a classic reptile. He has a great effect. Flip target 1 card in your graveyard. It doesn't have to be a monster, it could just be any card. Shuffle that card back into the deck. Okay defense, not too high defense, but it's okay card. I do use this one too because, again, I need reptiles. I don't really have too much reptiles, so I needed something to finish the deck, which his effect, okay, even though I don't think I can even use his effect. And then I do use Sinister Serpent because, again, reptile, his effect is kind of cool. I did use this deck in a duel. Didn't really have to use Sinister Serpent. It was basically another card I could just send in the graveyard and banish, you know, another +1 for my monsters. But I didn't really have to use his effect. And then I do use Lion Alligator because, again, reptile, his effect is pretty cool. If you control another reptile monster, if a reptile monster attack a defense monster, inflict piercing damage, which is pretty good. His attack is 19, which is pretty good for attack for level 4 monsters. Like there's monsters that what 2000 now, which is still high up, but a monster with 1900 for a 4-star, pretty good still. So those are the monsters. So let's get to the spells. I do use Foolish Barrel, just the one, because I think you can only use one. Or is it limited to 2? 1 or 2, I don't know. Which again, we're trying to build our graveyard, so send one monster from the deck to the graveyard, which is pretty good. I do use a Monster Reborn, so just in case, I don't have to use those monsters effects, because you do have to tribute a monster most of the time. So Monster Reborn just negate, well, not even negate, just ignoring the tribute and just bring out the monster, of course. Swords of Revealing Light, just to hold off the enemy for like 3 turns. Book of Moon, pretty good quick spell. If someone's about to attack me, or if they put a strong monster or whatever, defense. So I do have some support cards for this deck now, which is really helpful. For example, this one, if you have 5 or more reptiles with different names, I can special summon one of them, and I can only use this card once per turn. Pretty good card. Basically, Monster Reborn if I have 5 reptiles in the graveyard, which I have a lot of reptiles. Discard 1 card, send 4 reptiles from your deck to the graveyard. So Snake Rain is actually good with the other snake you saw in the deck. So if you send him from the hand to the graveyard, you get to special summon that guy, and then you build up your graveyard, which is good. So Snake Rain, I run 2. I don't want to run 3 cards. I don't want to put too much in my graveyard, then it's like my entire monsters in the graveyard. So just run 2, which is good. I do use Monster Gate because, again, tribute 1 card. You try to build your graveyard again, and then you could also special summon a monster, which is pretty good. I do have the field spell, Origin, right? That's how you spell it? I don't know. Which is pretty good. It helps out with the archetype really good. I do use Viper's Rebirth. I use 3, which again, if all the monsters in your graveyard reptiles, target 1 non-tuner, which I don't think I have any tuners in this deck, which is pretty good. Special summon it, but destroy it at the end of the turn, which is still good. If I have like any level 4 monsters in the graveyard, I could try XYZ, so I don't have to really destroy it at the end of the turn. And then Mage Power, just to boost up my monster's attack, because not a lot of these monsters have good attack. So just in case, we are playing like a lot of spells that are continuous, or like whatever is on the field, even traps that are continuous traps, which stays on the field for a while, so that will help out. Now for the trap cards, we do use Hollow because it's a pretty good trap card, and it's a continuous, so you could keep using it. I think it's only once per turn. Once per turn, which is pretty good still. Calling, I don't think I could do this one because I don't think I have 8 or more monsters in the names with the deck. I think I barely hit 7. I think I had to like recheck it again. But even the you could use the other effect, which is you could special summon 2 reptile monsters with different names from your graveyard, which is pretty cool. And then once per turn, when you take the battle damage from a battle involving a reptile monster, special summon 1 reptile monster from your deck with attack less or equal to the damage you took. So there's some monsters in here with there's not too much attack, which again is pretty good that you get to special summon them. I do use, let's see, 2 of the offering to the snake deity, which is pretty good. Target 1 face-up monster you control, add 2 cards your opponent control. Destroy all 3 cards, which is pretty good. Like I said, we're trying to build our graveyard, which is good, and then we get to destroy 2 of their cards. So it doesn't have to be monsters, spells, or traps. It could be any. And then for some protection traps, we use Phoenix Chain, which is I always love because people love to use effect monsters. They get the effect. Calm the Hunted, since we are building up our graveyard, it's also good to have some. It's like a Monster Reborn, and a 2-dimensional prison to banish their monsters. And then for the extra deck, I'm not using too much. I'm just using simple because, like I said, this deck is mostly reptiles, and I don't want to really use too much other stuff that's not reptiles. So I'll use King of the Feral Imps, which is pretty good. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 reptile from your deck to the hand, which is good. You're detaching material, which again, more reptiles to the graveyard, and then I can add 1 reptile from the deck to the hand. So I could use this card to bring out the dragon to my hand, and then use his effect to special summon it from banishing this guy from the field and whatever I have in the graveyard, which again boosts him up by 600 for each card, which is again a pretty good card. So this is my deck. Of course, like there's better decks out there with better builds and all that, but this is what I got. I didn't really buy any cards. I just bought the booster box. I'm like, you know what, let me try build a deck whatever I have and let's see what it works. I did a duel and I won with it. I almost lost, but you know, I hope you guys enjoy this. If you guys did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more videos unlike this. Bye. Aha!